Hey, good morning, Eastern Oregon, and welcome to this April 25th version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon, and we are on the EOA network. And here in just a little bit, we have the treat of having Kia Welch, a Grammy-nominated musician that grew up here in La Grande, and he'll be with us for a conversation. That sounds fun, man.
Yep. First Friday.
Yeah.
Yeah, the music during the countdown was some little piece of Come Back and Find Me, and then You Hold the Record, which are two unreleased Kia Welch songs. And man, if you would have asked me 25 years ago, so he's a buddy from high school. We both graduated right here in La Grande. He was the class below me, so 98. And if you would have asked me 25 years ago, who in this school right now will make some sort of influential progress in the music world, the first person's name I say is Kia Welch.
Yeah.
There's no question about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And he's proof that, like, if you follow your dreams and you can be whatever you want to be. And I mean, I think from a young age he knew he wanted to be a musician, and he did. I mean, he's living in Nashville, owns a studio, produces, played guitar and keyboard for Casey Musgraves on her Golden Hour tour, which was huge, won Grammys. He's been nominated for Grammys. He's the current piano player for the band The Fray, and there's just, I mean, he's the what, you know, every young musician dreams is.
Yep.
You know, he's busked. He's traveled all over the world, you know what I mean? What an interesting life, and we'll have him here right after the break, which is going to be fun.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, you want to do sports?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
AM Sports Report brought to you by Hobby Habit. Go check them out, man. They got all kinds of cool stuff. The Traxxas RC cars are probably my favorite. I mean, I just like the fact that you can get behind a remote control and make something go 70 miles an hour. That's always fun. But I mean, they have everything. Magic the Gathering. They have clubs that meet. They play games on the weekends. Check out their Facebook page, Hobby Habit. All you got to do is just search Hobby Habit. It'll pop up. And they usually put all of their events right there on the Facebook page, Hobby Habit, just for the fun of it. LHS softball and baseball play tomorrow right here in La Grande at 2 and 4. It's those concurrent games that I can't stand as usual. They got Baker, though, both of them. And the last time the softball team met Baker, they swept them. Baseball split. And, I mean, I would say both teams are in competition to win the GOL. The softball team's in a little bit better of a place, but baseball still has a chance. And they split with Baker the last time, so they have one loss in the GOL. They haven't played Pendleton, unless they made those Pendleton games up yesterday, because they had a couple Pendleton games get canceled due to some stuff going on with the team. But and it's not with the team; it's with, you know, like some medical stuff with the coach's family. So that's going to be the real teller for the baseball team, is whether or not we can handle Pendleton. EOU track and field will be at the OSU High Performance Meet this weekend after a really good weekend for the multis last weekend. We talked about it. TJ Davis just came out and basically said, "I'm here now. You got to beat me." I mean, really. The second place, who was the 8th highest scorer in the nation, he beat him by almost 1,000 points in the decathlon. And TJ that was his first decathlon competition of the year since last year. And so, I mean, he's got the #1 score in the country right now. He set like 5 CCC decathlon records last weekend. And he's the guy to beat going into the national championship for as far as the decathlon goes, which is kind of cool. He is a national champion in the heptathlon, and the difference is in indoor, the men do the heptathlon, which is 7 events, and in outdoor they do the decathlon, which is 10 events. So TJ, I mean, I would love to see him end his career as a Mountie as an outdoor national champion. That would be cool. EOU baseball travels to Caldwell to take on the Yotes this Saturday and Sunday. Those are going to be tough games for the baseball team. But this season's a win no matter what, in my eyes. Like, they did what they needed to do to recreate a better culture, and that was the key. And I think Kyle Treadway, the head coach, would agree with me when I say that was his biggest goal this year, is to just change the culture of the dugout, and that's obviously happened. EOU softball heads to Ashland this weekend, Friday, Saturday games against the Raiders, and man, that's tough. You know what I mean? Like, even Southern's in fourth, we're in first. But Southern is always a tough game, and our destiny's in our own hands. We win the first 3 games, we're the CCC outright champions, regular season, which means we get the automatic bid to nationals, and most likely a first round home game, which would be awesome. I mean, even if they don't win, they're still going to finish right there in the top 2, 1, 2, maybe. I think that there's a slim possibility if they lose all 3, they can drop to third. But, yeah, we want to win the conference. Like, we don't want to rely on the polls and getting a pass. Like, we either want to win the conference or the CCC tournament, or both. I mean, ideally both. And just really make a statement and come out as the champion in the toughest conference in the country. AM Sports Report brought to you by Hobby Habit, just for the fun of it.
All right. Good stuff, man.
Yeah.
All right. Let's take a look outside.
Yep.
And it looks like it wants to rain a little bit.
It's kind of crummy looking out there.
Yeah, what's the weather? I mean, yesterday was beautiful. I did a little bit of drone flying yesterday, and that was nice. Yeah. Let's see, 61 up to 61, 41 tonight, and then it looks like it's gonna like 30.
Back off.
Yeah, kind of like this day is gonna be it for. I mean, kind of the weather.
It's gonna get back down below freezing on Monday. You see that?
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
It's the end of April.
Yeah.
We're talking May, and we're still looking at 30 degrees.
Yeah.
31 degrees.
Yeah. Yep.
Let's go. Come on. Spring, let's go. Let's get here.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. All righty. Well, good. Well, hey, why don't you give us the outro to go to the break?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
when we return, Grammy nominated, LeGrand native, my friend. I mean, I haven't talked to him a lot in the last 25 years, but we got along really well in high school. He's super talented. He's I mean, like I said before, he's been involved with many great names in the music world. Kia Welch will join us right after the break.
Here in Eastern Oregon, we're blessed to live in such a wonderful area, and though it may seem mild-mannered, there's actually quite a lot that goes on in this area. And apparently, there's 2 dinguses who happen to be here that are actually crazy enough to get up at the crack of dawn to talk about it. Tune in to AM Live on EOA with Brent and Dodsey, featuring special guests, weather, sports, news, and more, every Tuesday and Thursday at 8 a.m., only on EOA Live, your connection to Eastern Oregon. Now on Roku.
Need the 3-shot. There we go. Hey, how are you doing? Are you with us?
Hey, team. Hey,
there.
can you still hear me?
We can.
Good.
Okay.
We're good. We're live.
The Lord. The hardest technical challenge I've mounted in months. It's just
Yeah,
doing
I
a
mean,
web call, man.
I mean, we love having remote guests. It just opens up a whole other thing. But when they do this, you know, in the big studios and stuff, they got a whole crew, and they have a tech person on your end to navigate all of this stuff. And so,
Yeah,
anyhow.
they send somebody to
Yeah.
wherever the person is,
Yeah, yeah.
and they oversee the whole tech part.
Yeah.
We don't have the budget for that.
So
Well, it's funny because I'm surrounded by a lot of expensive recording
Right, yeah.
equipment, but I just ended up using my old laptop and my noise canceling headphones because I couldn't figure out how to make anything else work.
I love it.
Yeah.
So let's. I want to read a little excerpt from your autobiography, and then I just kind of want you to give people like your background. You know, start at a young age. But I want to read this very first paragraph of your autobiography because I really like it. It's set, and this is written by Kai himself. He says, "I was born into a tribe of semi-nomadic, back-to-the-land hippies in Eastern Oregon in 1980. My parents made money for part of the year planting trees as contractors for the U.S. Forest Service and living in teepees and yurts. The rest of the time, they tended their garden, took care of the horses, practiced midwifery, tanned buckskins and beaded clothes, and generally homesteaded. It was something between Eden and squalor." You take it from there. Just give us some background. You know, like, where'd you grow? What growing up? Like,
Well, shout out to EOA, Northeastern Oregon Workers-Owned Cooperative,
nice.
which was a bunch of my parents' friends. So yeah, I mean that's all true. I feel like I wrote it like sounds a little like I was trying to write a novel there. You know, made it sound pretty romantic. And it kind of was. I mean, my parents I got to hand it to them. They were pretty committed to that back to the land ethos. So this was like, actually before we moved to LeGrand, they were living out in, originally a place called IZ, which is over near John Day. And that's when, man, the pictures from that era, I don't remember that because I was a baby, but I mean, I see pictures of my dad with a draw knife and a hatchet and a chainsaw building a little 8-sided log cabin, and he was working on it buck naked in some of those pictures. And I'm going, Dad, what are you doing, man? You got like blades and sap and splinters and stuff. Like, what are you doing? Put on some clothes, man.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were really committed to that lifestyle. And then they moved when I was about 1. They moved a little closer over near Elgin to a place called Clark Creek and had another little cabin with. I think they were kind of in cahoots with a couple other locals, Doug and Cheryl. Gosh, what's their last name? I'm blanking on it. Doug and Cheryl, they're great. Anyway, yeah, they did that stuff for many years, and then they kind of slowly, you know, became more normal.
Yeah.
And we moved into town, and my sister and I went through the LeGrand school system, and everything got a little less hippied out, but that is my roots.
How so we talk about that, like and I don't want to say like commune style living, but homestead style living, I guess is what we'll call it.
Yeah.
How do you how did that influence your life as an adult, like your music career, your journey?
Man, you know, I still think that idea of like not being in the, you know, kind of positioning yourself outside of the cycle of just buying things, you know, working for a paycheck and then using your paycheck to buy things and then paying the utility company to use the electricity to keep your TV going and the rat race, you know, like I think it's a beautiful and admirable idea to sort of break out of that and try to live off the land in a more direct way. It's probably pretty hard to really pull it off, but I've always sort of carried that those ideals around with me. I think that my parents living that way, growing up that way, with my little sister in Eastern Oregon, spending a lot of our time in the outdoors, you know, backpacking up in the Eagle Caps and swimming in all the rivers and all that stuff, I think left me with a really pretty strong environmental belief system, you know, where I feel like that stuff, having a real relationship with the land and relationship with the beauty of the planet, like, is kind of one of the most important things in my life, and has definitely like keeps me sane for one thing, you know. It's kind of my mental health regimen is definitely still based on getting out into it. I've become a avid surfer over the last 15 years or so, and that's my new way. It's not really Eastern Oregon's not a real surf mecca, but
No.
somehow or other that's crept into my life, and now I travel so much for work that I often find myself in these places where I can, you know, get a little strike mission in and get out and do some surfing before a sound check, or take some extra time after a gig and do some surfing. And that has really helped me in my life. So, I think that my parents making those lifestyle decisions early on definitely like had a big impact on the direction of my life, whether or not I myself have found a way to live that way. I haven't really. I mean, I live in Nashville, on the grid. I'm fully on grid, man. But I always dream of doing something like that. It's really been a big personal goal of mine at some point to basically move my recording studio, move my career to a place that's a little where I can incorporate some of those ideals. And it's funny that my little sister, I call her my little sister. She's a grown woman, of course, now, but Sage is her name, and she's become a basically a PR person for environmental causes, based in the Bay Area. So her environmentalism definitely, like, she's prioritized it even more than me in my life, and I'm really proud of her. She's become kind of a big a big name. I don't. It sounds silly to call her a big deal, but she is kind of a big deal. She's done a lot of amazing stuff in that world, really fighting the good fight, for environmental causes. So, yeah, I think our parents left us with that.
Love it.
Yeah, so Kai, I grew up in a musical family, and but I always had this admiration for people who could write songs. I mean, tell us a little bit about how you got started and your journey to becoming a writer.
Oh man, well, you got to write a bunch of bad songs. That's the key. That's the key. You got to write a bunch of absolute drivel about your first girlfriend, probably, most likely, before you hit upon anything decent. I started writing songs when I was still in LeGrand. Actually, I think would have been my first. You know what I've always been like a little bit bummed about is, like, I feel like when I was in high school, I was like a classical pianist, and I was doing all the stuff. I was doing all the school music stuff that I could, being in choir with Frazier and band with Mr. Howell, and doing the musicals and all of that stuff. But I feel like nobody told me that you could, like, start a band. Like, nobody told me, like, you could start, like, a rock band. Like, I don't know why I just didn't think that was a possibility at all. Never even crossed my mind. So it's so funny, like, being a professional musician and working with all these bands and artists over the years. Everybody's like, yeah, what was your high school band like? Everybody's like, well, I had a thrash metal band, or I had a punk rock garage band, or whatever. And, like, I was like, nobody told me I could do that. I was like I was singing in Fiddler on the Roof. Anyway, writing is a big journey, man. It's a very personal, very challenging journey, still to this day. It's like to really tap into something real and say something honest and from the heart, and not kind of like, not front, it's so easy. And I think so many people, I dare say most of the people who are trying to be songwriters and trying to be artists are doing it because they like the idea of it, and they like the image of it, and so they're like, I can do it, and they write a song that then sounds like another song, and art becomes really derivative. I think to tap into something real and say something really real is a very, very hard thing. I still have a beginner's mind around it, and feel like if I tap into something, one in 100 songs that I write, like
Wow.
really hits something really real, then I'm grateful. It's just, you just kind of gotta. It's like fishing, You just keep
Yeah.
on casting, and you hope to. They don't call it catching; they call it
That's
fishing.
true.
Yeah. Wait, do you have a discipline with it? I mean, there's a local artist who's really worked at it beyond here, Nicole
Lewis.
Lewis. I don't know if you know Nicole Lewis, and she's really
I've
worked
been
at being
checking her out.
yeah, she's really worked at being an artist, and I mean she's really worked at it, and she's got a connection with
Yep.
Dolly Parton and some other people, but
Oh,
for
awesome.
for her for
Queen,
her
all
writing,
queens.
yeah, for her writing, it's like, I mean, they have like writing parties, I mean, they get together with group. I mean, is part of your routine is like you set a time? And I mean, tell us about that just a
Yep,
little bit.
yep. I do. I after so many years of working here in this town, and writing both on my own and with other people, I finally ended up with what's called a publishing deal. So I have a music publisher that's like a company that kind of manages all that, the intellectual property. They like sort of manage the catalog, right? And
Hmm.
they go about trying to like place your music in film and TV and blah blah blah, blah all that kind of stuff. Um, so, after probably 18 years or something, I finally ended up with a publisher, and the publisher is helpful because they schedule you for co-writes. Um, so yeah, if I'm in town, if I'm not on tour or doing something else or running around surfing or whatever I'm trying to do, I get together on a very regular basis with the other writers, with artists that I'm interested in working with, or that I might be interested in doing some production work with, and we'll just write. I mean, I had a write the day before yesterday with she's cool actually. I had a co-write 2 days ago with a girl named Lily Winwood, who's the great Steve Winwood's daughter. um, and she's awesome. You can hear some of that Steve Winwood in her and in her thing, but she's young and showing up on Nashville's scene, kind of doing a thing. So yeah, so co-writing is very much a discipline where you just have to sort of schedule it and show up and hope for the best, and there's a lot of techniques and different things that people do. Everybody's got a different approach. I just kind of, I think I just kind of keep showing up, man. I just
Yeah.
keep, sit down every day, pick up an instrument, sit down at the piano, or do whatever, and the studio's fun, because I have all these. You can't really see from where you're at, but I'm afraid to touch my computer because I don't want to break anything. But I just have a million. There's like a million instruments all
Wow.
over this room that I can
Oh, that's awesome.
I can grab a hold of anything, and this is only one of like a few rooms in my house that are basically a giant interconnected web of instruments. So um, I think just staying close to music and trying every day is is the only discipline that I've ever had.
Nice. We got a couple questions coming in from viewers. Do you have a cabin in the woods now, or a getaway place?
That's a great question. I'm working on it. I'm
Working on it.
working on it.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been looking. Well, I sometimes think about a little bit of a homecoming, coming back to Eastern Oregon, which is still. I've been all over the world, man, and it's pretty good back there.
Pretty good.
So I think about that sometimes, but I am kind of like actively, for the last couple of years, I've been actively like looking at properties and places around the world that I would like to basically have a getaway.
Yeah.
And for me, it would always be a place where I could also go and record music and then bring
Right.
artists that I work with Yeah, write, record, just be kind of a little, get out of the hustle and bustle. And so, yeah, I'm working on it. I don't have my own, but I also do have a lot of places I like to run off to. I've been quite fond of Baja, California, the last few years.
I like Baja.
Taking Baja is so cool. Um, but yeah, good question. Working
All
on
right,
it. Don't
we
have
got
it yet.
another question from Brian Stave. You know Brian Stave.
I
Can you
remember
share?
those Stavey.
He wants you to share your experience on Saturday Night Live. He says, "Good to see you, and hope you're still swinging the tennis racket."
Oh, dude, Stave, you have no idea. My tennis has gone into hyperdrive. I would, I would beat any tennis player on the LHS team. Don't care what your seed is, bring it, because I'm ready. I've finally become a good tennis player. I feel like it was a bit of a joke to us in high school. Mr. Shireman was the coach, and he was
Yep.
also the art teacher, and he was a really funny guy. And he
He
called
coaches
us
football
losers
now,
every
believe
day.
it or not.
Does he?
Yeah.
He would come out on the court every day. He would go, "All right, losers," and he wasn't lying, because we did lose a lot, because we kind of sucked. Because I thought tennis was I liked tennis because you didn't have to take a drug test or anything, and you could like listen to Tupac in the parking lot, and it was pretty chill. But yeah, I've become a very serious tennis player. Not very serious, but I have joined the USTA leagues here in Nashville, and I really have spent a lot of time on the tennis court the past few years. I love it. I love it. So yeah, thanks, Mr. Shireman. But what was the other? Oh, Steve asked about
Saturday Night Live.
SNL.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was surreal, man. It was cool. It all happens really fast, when you're doing something like that. It's like you're just like there, and you're meeting everybody. Amy Schumer was the host the night we played. She was really funny. But you're just kind of there, and you're like, "Whoa, is this really happening?" And then the thing happens, and everybody's clapping, and the light goes on, and you play the songs, and then it's like, I don't know, dude. It's just a blur.
Was that something that you did when you were in Casey Musgrave's band?
Yeah, I think what he's asking about is, actually, I don't know what year that would have been. 2019, maybe, 2018 or 2019. It was right when her record was really taken off, and
The Golden Hour.
yeah, we played. Yes, Golden Hour record. Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, but it was fun to be there.
So when I introduced you, one of the things that I said was basically like if you would have asked me 25, well, it's a little more than 25 years ago now, who's the one person you think would still be involved in music at this point in our lives, your name would be the first one that I would say by far. Your dedication to music has been, even back then was unparalleled in my eyes. We have a little excerpt from You Hold the Record. We're going to play just a little bit of it, and then we're going to talk about that song just a little bit. Here, go ahead and play that for us, Gabe. So with this song, Kai, so I basically asked Kai, like, hey, send me some music that won't get us dinged. And when I say dinged, I mean copyright infringed on social media. And this is one of the songs that Kai sent me, and you basically said, hey, if I ever have an album ready, this is one of the songs that's going to be on it.
Yeah, I would probably put this. I don't know, like the story.
Gabe, you can go ahead and cut that off. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Yeah, basically I had to look and find something that isn't out, that hasn't been released, so
Right.
that we don't, because even my own music, right? Like they would,
Right.
yeah,
It's
they would
crazy.
tell me, they would tell you can't use my music.
Yeah, no, I have another friend who's an artist, and he can't play his own stuff on his own Facebook page because it gets dinged. It's crazy. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's the world works in mysterious ways. But and meanwhile, we're not getting paid for anything that gets played anyway. So
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
So yeah, that song was just I oftentimes if I have a free day, just to stay productive and just to you know as a discipline, as a practice, I'll just come into the studio, open slate. Okay, let's make something. That song, I have a really cool. I have a lot of old synthesizers now, but I have this a synthesizer from the '80s called a Juno 60, which is just a sweet, iconic, classic analog synthesizer that makes like I don't know all these amazing sounds that you totally recognize from '80s records. And I just fired it up, played these couple chords, dun dun dun, go ding ding, and I just recorded a whole 3 minutes of that synthesizer, and then I just started adding stuff to it. Started playing guitars and started playing some bass, and did my really poor attempt at playing the drums. It's not my strong suit.
Yeah, I was going to ask.
And then
I was going to ask you that. What
you're
instruments
like, who's
do
the
you?
drummer
Yeah.
on this song? Because
Yeah.
this drumming is not that good. Who is this? I am a keyboard player mainly. And I was like, that's what I was, really trained on. Like that's what I can sort of confidently walk into a room and say, yes, I play the keys, even in a place like Nashville where somebody's going to be ripping harder than you could ever imagine on every instrument. So, but I can hang on keyboards, and I claim that one. I'll sheepishly admit to being able to play the guitar. I'm an okay guitar player. I can like in the Casey Musgraves band, or now I play with a woman, a part-time gig that I do is a woman named Ricky Lee Jones, who's this great, absolutely amazing sort of legend of the late '70s. She's super cool, and I'm a big fan of hers. And I play mostly electric guitar in her band, actually, which is kind of crazy because I don't consider myself a great electric guitar player. But there's this other thing about like you can be like a ripper and a shredder, and you can like really, really have a lot of ability and ability to play a lot of notes and play fast on an instrument, and that's impressive, but it's not always really the right thing, so it's like you can just play simply and play tastefully, and you can get away with a lot, especially if I've found, interestingly enough, that the music business is based a lot more on the hang than anything else. Like if people kind of want to hang out with you and you're easy to be around, that goes a long way. So yeah, so it's funny. I play guitar okay. I play bass okay. I play drums not very good. I do still. Mr. Howell would be happy to know that I do still play the trumpet, and I do that a fair bit. I'll get work arranging for horns, and then I'll play a bunch of horns on the trumpet, and I still do that from time to time. I enjoy that.
Nice. What genre would you consider your own personal music?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
Genre's a tricky one, man. I feel like genre is like it's like melting as time goes by, right? It's like every time a genre gets really like firmly like entrenched, like this is what rock music sounds like, then a band comes along and like changes that. Yep. It's like Radiohead, like, oh, is that what rock music sounds like? Pop music. What does that even mean anymore? It's like there's so many influences in every single genre. So I don't know, man. I would say that my personal music, when I do get the time and energy and free space to work on my own stuff, I would say it sort of straddles a world of of like pop. I guess I would say like some people have called it AM pop before, which I I don't know what that means, but I thought it sounded cool. AM radio pop. I don't know
Let's
what that
roll with
means.
it.
It means like maybe it's influenced more by like Paul Simon and Carole King. Uh, it's sort of like a little bit of that like real songwriter ethos with like interesting chords, not just a lot of like big radio pop these days. It's really really simple in its chord structure, which is just like an addictive bubblegummy kind of a sound that people love, and I'm not here to knock it. Like it is very addictive. I do like incorporating a little more complexity in chords, so that that maybe harkens back more to some of those other writers. I love Randy Newman. I love Tom Petty. I also love weirder stuff like Radiohead. Um, so yeah, I don't know, man.
Cool. We're going to talk about your influences in just a second, but first we got another question. OK Theater says, Kai, Daryl Brand here. We loved the music
What's
for
up,
Wild
Daryl?
Places events we did together. The caliber of musicians you brought to us, yourself included, were amazing. I hope we can do it again. I also appreciate you reaching out to our daughter Meredith while she was living in Nashville. Cheers. One more question. When is the Bro Country Satire album coming out?
Oh, Daryl. Daryl's a great guy. I'm sure you guys know about Daryl up there at the OK Theater. He's got this incredible family. It's like the Eastern Oregon Von Trapp family, like a whole line of children of all sizes and ages, and they're all the best kids in the world. They're like so. I don't know how he did it. He got the most well behaved, polite, respectful family on earth. I love those guys, and yeah, we had some great experiences up there. I was doing a thing for many years where I would just kind of help to organize a river trip with Winding Waters, which is a river company based out of Joseph, and I was a whitewater guide when I was in college, and so we would Paul and Penny up there at Winding Waters would help me organize a river trip where I would bring a music act that I was either just friends with or that I had toured with or worked with somehow, and then we would play a show at the OK Theater the night before the river trip, or sometimes the night after. Although we found that it worked a lot better to do it the night before because we were pretty tired after a 5-day float down the
Right.
Hell's Canyon. But yeah, I was able to bring some great artists, and I want to do it again. It's just I've been so busy. Once the Casey gigs started, that was just a full-time commitment. I had to skip one show with Casey once to come to my little sister's wedding in Eastern Oregon, actually, and that was a big deal. I had to skip one show to go to that wedding out in Union of my stepsister Adri Tyler and her husband Nick, and so I haven't been able to like break away and do it again, but I always think about it, so I'd like to do that again. It was really fun. And yeah, Daryl's daughter Meredith is maybe still around town. She came over one day and shared her journey with music in this town, and it was totally cool to hear about it. It's a really talented family, and so yeah, thanks, Daryl. I'll see you soon. We'll figure it out.
Nice. What about influences? Like, let's talk about that for a minute. Like, who would you say is your number one influence when it comes to music?
Ooh, number one.
Yeah.
That's a crazy one, man. I just because he's on my mind because I said his name a minute ago. I have always had a really, really deep, powerful connection with Paul Simon's music. I don't know. I don't know if I could totally put my finger on why. I heard, my parents in those early neo-wok, hippie days, the halcyon days in the early 80s. I think that record Graceland was on a lot when I was a kid. It's like one of the earliest really distinctive musical memories that I have is being in my dad's truck or wherever and hearing Graceland a lot, which is, if anybody out there doesn't know that record, please go buy it right now. It's just this incredible collaboration that Paul Simon did with a bunch of South African musicians. This great vocal group, Ladysmith, Black Mambaza, and all these insane musicians from a lot of them on that record from South Africa. But he, yeah, man, his writing, his lyrics, and his sort of just everything about Paul Simon's music, especially in those a chunk of records from the early 70s through the 80s, really formative for me. I've just always connected a lot with it. I remember catching a little flack for that in high school. Actually, I remember one of my high school girlfriends laughing at the Paul Simon record that I had on the stereo when we were hanging out one time. She said, "You like this? You do. You like this, don't you?" And it was some really cheesy. It was like "Still Crazy After All These Years" or something playing. Still crazy after all.
Which is a great
strings
song.
And everything.
Yeah.
But Jade Clark thought it was kind of silly, I guess.
Oh, you're gonna call her out right here on blast? We love you, Jade, 100%.
Yeah, that's true. We do. But she made fun of
What
me
about so when you talk about Paul Simon, one of the music was a really big influence in my life. Although I didn't become a musician, my family is very, very into music, and the Paul Simon. The album that I remember hearing and this particular song was the Simon and Garfunkel "Bridge Over Troubled Waters." Like that, my mom played that a lot when I was a kid. That and then Stevie Winwood, dude. Stevie Winwood was always on the radio in our house.
Yeah, Steve Winwood. I've like come to Steve Winwood later and realize like. It's so funny how music you get into one lane and then you think it's like when I was in high school, like I feel like all we ever listened to was Sublime,
right?
And like maybe also Tracy Chapman, Sublime, Tracy Chapman, and like Van Morrison, like that. And it's amazing how much music there is and how easy it is to miss things, and then you just suddenly it's like I started listening to this very random obscure Steve Winwood record, the Low Spark of High Heeled Boys, is that what it's called? It's a crazy record. Yeah. And I'd never heard it in my life, and then I just found it like last summer and was like, oh man, this is the coolest thing I've ever heard. It's just kind of cool how music works that way. It's never too late to discover something.
Right. And today, the people today are at a huge advantage compared to us back then. Back then, you had to go either listen to it on the radio or buy a CD. Now you have it right here all the time. You can listen to any genre, anything you want, on the touch of of your phone. And we had to either hear it on the radio or. Yeah.
That is true. I remember I went down to Mike Mallory's CD store, down there on Adams Avenue.
Bought many CDs there.
Bought many a CD. It was like the only thing. It was like how it worked, right? And I went down there. I remember one time, and it would have been like '95 or something, and I found a record. I just bought it only because I liked the cover of the CD. I was like, that looks cool. And it was a band called Concrete Blonde that was like an LA based, like sort of like post-punk rock band thing. And I got obsessed with that band, and that was like my favorite band in high school, just because I liked the album cover and like it became one of, you know, like one of my like 10 biggest influences in high school, just because of that. You know, it is a really different world now. You know, it's like we're lucky if we listen to a whole song now. You know,
Yeah,
it's
let
like
alone a whole
you're
album.
streaming. Exactly, you're streaming stuff and you're like, oh yeah, this sounds pretty cool, and then like 40 seconds later, you're like, oh yeah, but Beyonce just put out this new country song. So listen to that.
Oh,
And yeah, it's really hard to stay focused, and it's really hard to let the music like really seep in and like make an impact, you know, and develop a relationship with it. I miss that a lot about CDs, where you only had 15 CDs in your car,
Right.
you know, and one of them was too scratched to listen to, so you just listen to those other ones, and you get to where you know every song on a record, you know which ones you skip, and you know, it's like those were the days.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know which ones are skits on the CD. You know, I had a lot more than 16 CDs in the car though. Like
Yeah,
I always had
you were a legit music
a
fan.
full,
Yeah.
and I bought many huge albums at LeGrand Stereo Music, and everything from All Eyes on Me to 16 Stone by Bush. I mean, the day those albums come out, we would be at LeGrand Stereo Music trying to get our hands on you know whatever was hot that day coming out. I can
Trying to
remember
get
that
this,
clearly.
trying to get the sticker off the jewel case.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, the top, the little thing. Yeah, oh man,
Yeah, and that hasn't
Making a
changed.
mess.
That has not
Making
changed.
a mess.
Yeah, quick
Just,
question.
You don't have a big enough fingernail.
Yeah.
So somebody finally taught me the trick, like just not that long ago, that you take the hinge off of the CD.
Yeah, and you fold it.
Flip it.
Yep,
Interesting.
all
comes
these
right
years.
off.
So, quick question.
I love that anybody in Gen Z out there is going, these boomers are still talking about CDs.
What is that?
Yeah,
What
how
is going
you
on?
mentioned
Go ahead, Brett, sorry.
you mentioned earlier about not getting paid for the music and how that's changed. A lot of people don't understand. I mean, they love Spotify, they love all that access, but they don't really understand
course
how
they
that's
do.
affected the artists. Talk about that briefly if you can for a minute. Yeah.
Oh man, I mean,
I'm sorry. That's a deep hole.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's okay. No, it's just it's a you know it's
People
a
just
tried
don't
and
know.
true land
Yeah.
Well, so musician, if I have a song that I made and I put it on Spotify and I wrote the song and I own the complete rights to the song, if it plays on Spotify, I get paid 0.04 of a penny. No, 0.004
400ths of a penny.
per. Yes, 400ths of a penny, I believe.
So
Per
it
play?
takes 25 plays to get a penny. Is what you're saying.
Something like that. Yes.
Okay, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Wow.
So you just don't get paid. I mean, you can have a huge. I've worked on songs with artists that have millions of plays, and streaming just does not pay artists. And the whole thing was that back in the day, in the early 2000s, when Pandora and these other streaming services were coming into the picture, they went to Congress and they said, you know, this is a music discovery platform. This is just gonna help people find artists, and then artists will still make money the old-fashioned way. But this is just what this is for. So Congress was like, okay, yeah, we don't know what this is. So they set that, what they call the statutory rate per stream. They set it at that 0.004 or whatever. Little did they know that would become one day the only way that people listen to music, essentially. And so the whole thing is based on a bunk idea of what one stream is worth. So, you know, there's people in the industry fighting for like if we got paid a penny per play, like if you wanted to listen to a song and you paid a penny to listen to that song, like imagine it's a digital jukebox and you just walk up and put a penny in to listen to the song you want to, like that makes sense, right? Like that seems like a reasonable amount. Well,
dirt
goodness
cheap.
Lord, if you just do the math, man. If we got paid a penny per play as opposed to 0.004 of a penny, there would actually be a music industry like there used to be. But you know, man, I played golf yesterday actually with a friend of mine who's a music producer. He's done all kinds of funny stuff. His biggest stuff was hard to find what it is I see in you. Wonder if what's that song? Be with you. That song. He produced that record. I can't remember the name of that band actually. I'm embarrassed that I can't remember that. But
What is the name of that song?
I don't know, but he did that band, and he did some Three Doors Down, and he did some like Saliva, all these bands from the '90s.
Sister Hazel.
He used to. That's it. That's it.
All for you.
Yes, he was the Sister. Exactly, he was the Sister Hazel producer, and back then, I mean, he was telling me on the golf course, he was like, dude, he's real funny. He's from Memphis, Tennessee. He's got this real thick accent. He's like, yeah, he's 20 years older than me, but he's like, man, I'll tell you, man, you know, used to be a gold record, man. He's like, I got one check for one quarter, one financial quarter. I got $750,000, man. Like, talking about what it was like if you were involved with a successful music project in the 90s when CD sales were a thing versus now. He just made a gold record with an artist named Morgan Wade, who's really awesome. If anybody's interested in looking her up, she's really rad. I actually played a little tiny bit on her record, but that record went gold, which is whatever that means, sells 1 million copies or whatever. But gold in the modern world, and he says he got, you know, he's a producer with points on a gold record with this Morgan Wade record, and he made $30,000 instead of back in the old days.
Wow.
$750 for one financial quarter. So back then he was, you know, hopefully he invested wisely back in the day. But anyway, the point is, yeah, the guts of the music industry have just fallen out, and there's, you know, at the same time, the argument could be made that, well, here I am, I'm surviving. I know a lot of people who make a living. It's just we have to go about it in a whole different way, and you have to do all these like direct to fan things, and people are doing Patreons, and people are doing, and it's still the only thing that actually like makes money is when a fan buys merch. We're basically like t-shirt salesmen, you know. If a fan buys your merch on the road or goes directly to your website and buys like a CD or a vinyl or something from you,
yep.
Or there's a platform called Bandcamp that's really great. If anybody, yeah, if anybody's like, if you love an artist right now and you just think they're really cool, go and see if they have a Bandcamp page, because Bandcamp is a page where you can stream their music and you can buy, you know, physical copies of the music, and you can pay the artist directly, and that kind of stuff is just huge. It goes a really long way. So yeah,
nice.
The industry's definitely changed a lot, you know, but
so much, huh?
It still happens.
All right, I got a quick this or that music for you, and then we'll talk.
Oh, boy.
You'll talk a little bit about where you're at right now and how people can find you, and then we'll get you out of here. You ready?
Okay.
All right. So you're gonna tell me which one of these you prefer. Okay. Elton John or David Bowie?
Oh, dude, that's so hard. You can't take two of the titans.
Just wait, it gets a little harder.
That's so hard, man. Because I'm a piano player, I'm almost like, Elton, because I love him, and as a piano player, I respect him for doing what he did. It's very rare that piano is cool.
Right.
Piano's
He
often
made piano cool.
too pretty. He made piano real cool, but I'm still gonna go with Bowie.
Are you? All right. Next one: Rihanna or Beyonce?
Rihanna for me.
Rihanna. All right, here.
I love Queen Bee, but
You're gonna like this is a good one. Harry Styles or Bieber?
Dude, it doesn't matter what you say. I don't care what the other name is. Like, you say Harry Styles, I'm all in.
Yeah?
I
One
love
Direction, dude?
Harry Styles. Dude, no. Harry Styles is an actual prince. We toured with Harry Styles.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, I spent a whole summer in the Harry Styles world. We opened for him 2019, summer of 2019. So we were out there doing all these arenas with Harry Styles. It was it was incredible. I am a huge fan of Harry Styles. I think he's like the best dude ever. He's so
my daughter's
nice
favorite.
He's so sweet and cute and talented. And he's really like thoughtful and considerate, and he's just rad. And I think his music is great. So
He's
Harry
super
Styles,
talented.
Bieber can do Bieber stuff.
All right, moving on. Led Zeppelin or Pink Floyd?
Dude, this is an incriminating game. I can't. Somebody's gonna get mad at me no matter what.
I mean, just personal
man.
preference.
I mean, I think that Led Zeppelin had a bigger impact on my life, as far as like Led Zeppelin was the first like big rock band that like I was like, oh my God. It was like one of those things like I feel about how nobody told me I could have a rock band in high school. When I finally really started listening to Led Zeppelin when I was in college, I was like, what? No, nobody told me about this. Like,
Mind blown.
Mind blown. But through the course of my life, I think I probably come back to Pink Floyd more often. I really love the psychedelic elements, so I might go with Pink Floyd.
Okay, we got a couple more. Michael Jackson or Prince?
Prince.
Prince over
It's just
Michael
easier.
Jackson?
It's
because
just
of
easier, man. I don't want to get into the swamp, you know.
No, yeah. Beatles or Rolling Stones?
Oh, the classic.
Yeah.
I am. The world would be a worse place without either of these absolute institutions. But the Beatles have had more of an impact on my life, so I'm gonna go with the Beatles.
Last one.
I can already see all my true rock and roll friends are like so ashamed of me.
Well, I mean, I would go Stones myself just because of my musical background with my family. I mean, Stones were. I think my mom would probably take the Beatles, but me personally, like, if she had a Beatles album on or a Stones album on, I'm digging the Stones album a little more.
Yeah, I get it. The Beatles
Last
is a
one.
little more polished.
Last one. Can you guess where I'm going with this one? I give you one guess. We haven't hit this genre yet at all.
Something that's completely impossible to choose.
Tupac or Biggie?
Oh, I thought you were going to do Sublime or 311.
Oh, well, that's easy. That's Sublime all day.
I know.
Tupac or Biggie?
Biggie. Okay, so this goes deep for me and Doddsy here because in 1995 in Mr. Jones's algebra class, Dodds slid "Ready to Die" by Notorious B.I.G. across the desk and tapped on it and was like, "This is it, man. You got to hear this. You don't have this record?" And I was like, "No, I don't." And I went out and bought it. I probably went to Stereo Music and bought it. Tupac or Biggie? Whew, man.
It's a hard one.
It is. It's pretty much impossible also, but I think like just for the flow, for the depth and the like joy of his flow that I return to all the time, I'm gonna go with Biggie.
All right.
Notorious B.I.G.
And I'm gonna go ahead and just call it a tie in my book. Like
Okay.
I can't I don't yeah. All right, so let's talk about real quick where you're at right now. Like, what are you doing right now, and where people can find you? Like, if they want to find your music, if they want to, is there a tour coming up? What's going on with you?
Well, I just got back on Instagram
I
after
noticed that.
about 3.5 year hiatus. I took a little. I was just gonna like do a little detox for a couple of weeks. It was like COVID had just started, and I just couldn't handle like Instagram was too crazy, and I feel like it's pretty bad for our mental health as a species. So I got out of there, and then I just never managed to get back on. But just a few months ago was like, you know what, if I'm yeah, I gotta have some way of telling people about what's going on. So I got back on there. So I'm Kai Welch on the internet. Kai Welch _ on the _ internet.
I just
I
put
just
the
wanted
link
to
to your
pick that.
Instagram in the comments.
Okay, great. I look forward to a burst of Legrand followers. um, but that I try to share generally sort of what's going on. So currently I am officially joining. It looks like I'm officially joining as a real sort of full-fledged. A lot of what I do is sideman work where, like, I don't know, I'm going to Tahoe in a couple weeks to play a show with this country singer named Ashley Monroe. I just did this little Australia tour with Ricky Lee Jones. A lot of that stuff is sideman work where you're just kind of like a contracted guy. You get a day rate, you go and you learn the songs and you play, and you're not really like involved beyond that with the music, which it's cool. It's also like not quite as fulfilling as being like really involved creatively with the music. But
Yeah.
I'm joining in a more real way the band The Fray, which y'all probably remember from the early 2000s. They had a bunch of hits, How to Save a Life and whatnot. But
Yeah.
I've met them around the scene the last year or two, and really good guys, really great operation, sweethearts. We really connected personally and musically, and so so I think we're about to announce that pretty soon. It hasn't been sort of announced, but I'm gonna join that band in a more official capacity. So I'll be touring with the Fray for the rest of the year. At least, and probably beyond. We're talking about there's going to be a new Fray record. There's already a EP coming out that's all new Fray music for the first time in a year. I mean, in 10 years, excuse me, because they took a big hiatus. So there's new music which I had the privilege of getting to work on with those guys. We actually did a bunch of keys for the record here at my studio, and so that's coming out soon. Hopefully that'll be on the radio and stuff, Hopefully there's still an appetite out there for what is now a nostalgia band. It's so crazy. Somebody told me this the other day, and it totally blew my mind. They said, the Fray is to now what ABBA was to you when you were in high school.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Yeah, I know you rock that
basically,
Dancing Queen.
Dude, isn't that insane though? Like when we were in high school in 1997, when we were in high school, like ABBA was 20 years before, and that was like so vintage.
Totally.
And it was like kind of like, oh, you're into 70s music. And then now the Phrase record would have come out 20 years ago, so it's exactly the same thing. So I'm like, vintage. We're vintage, dude.
Yeah.
What is happening?
I feel vintage too.
Yeah, I feel pretty vintage. So the Fray is exciting. I'm stoked on that. There's a record, actually a single just came out yesterday that I produced with a bunch of really close friends of mine. I think this record is one of the best things I've ever done. I would love for everybody to go listen to it. The artist's name is Rick Robertson, RICK Robertson, Rick Robertson. I produced and played and co-wrote a little bit with Rick on that record, and I just think it's the coolest thing. It's a rock. It's like just check it out. It's a really real record. We made it in a really unique style where we didn't do any headphones and we didn't do any isolation. We didn't do any overdubs. That's a kind of
cool.
a lot of inside baseball there. But for people who don't know anything about the recording process, basically this record is as real as it can get. No no computerized perfection on this record. It's really real. The musicianship is incredible. So go listen to that. The song "Brother Sparrow" just came out yesterday.
Cool.
I got some other great records that I've been producing. Recording with artists. They're all coming out soon, and I'm starting to record and put out my own music again. So by the end of the year, I hope to have a new Kai Welch record. So people can look for that and come and see me if the Fray comes to town.
Oh, I'll definitely. If you're Boise, Portland, I'll be there for sure.
We're definitely doing we just confirmed a show in Oregon on July 31st.
Oh, that's 4
can't
days
remember
after my
where.
birthday. Where at?
Well, come on out for the birthday.
Do you know
don't
where yet?
remember. I don't remember. I remember they said it was in Oregon.
Okay, so anyways, we go back to where they can find you. I also put your website in the comments, so there's lots of information on your website about what's going on with you.
I update that one about every 5 years or so. I remember to get on there and update my website. So
It's pretty up to date right now.
Nice.
Doing good. All right, well, Kai, man, I appreciate your time. We appreciate your time. Awesome.
Thank you, guys.
What's it been? 20. I haven't seen you since 27 years.
Wow.
That's how
so
old
crazy,
we are.
dude.
Yeah.
You have any
That's
kids?
crazy.
You do. You have kids.
Yes, 3.
I do have 3 kids.
Yeah.
I have 2 that are
Nice.
adults. There's a mini Dodgy, but he's taller than me.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a monster.
I gotta meet that dude.
Yeah, you'd enjoy him. He's a good kid.
He likes. Does he like 90s rap too?
Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course. Yeah.
You're doing something right, my friend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
thank you.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks for having me. It's been
Yeah.
a pleasure talking to you guys.
Awesome. Yep.
And reliving the good old days. You guys have a great thing going.
Super proud of
thanks
you
so much
too,
for having
dude.
me.
Keep
Yeah.
up the good work.
Well, thank you. Look, I'm just like happy to be here and happy to still get to do this thing and I hope to see you guys soon and shout out to all my GRV peeps. Love you guys and I'll see you later.
If you're ever here in the area, come in and we'll get you in the studio and do this again. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Oh, cool. Well, thank you so much. It's a total honor to talk to you guys. Thanks.
Appreciate it, Kai.
All righty. You want to
All
get us out of here?
See y'all.
Yeah, let's get us out of here. On this day, 1898, the United States declares state of war on Spain. That's crazy. On this day, 1898. 1901, New York becomes the first state requiring automobile license plates. 1950, on this day, Chuck Cooper becomes the first African American to be drafted into the NBA. 2019, Microsoft becomes the 3rd U.S. firm to be listed with a market value or worth of $1 trillion. The other 2 are Apple and Amazon.
Wow.
2022, Twitter announces a deal to sell itself to Elon Musk for $44 billion. The number 1 song on this day in America, Against All Odds. Take a look at me now, Phil Collins. That's a G right there. And then the quote of the day comes from Amit Ray. Every day is a good day. There's something to learn, care, and celebrate. Every day is a good day. There's something to learn, care, and celebrate. That's it. Once again, man, huge thank you to Kai Welch for joining us, man. Just an all-around good dude doing good things. I've always been particularly fond of Kai, and you guys got to see right there. There's good reason why.
Yep. Awesome. That was a great conversation.
Tomorrow night, Judge Williams has his.
No, the Saturday.
Oh,
night.
Saturday night. Yeah, Saturday night, the 27th.
Saturday night, we'll have a candidate conversation with Wes Williams right here in the studio.
Yep.
All righty. See you soon.